Coming towards the end of last year, I was finishing up a business project that I'd been working on for 2 years, and we were about to sell it. So I was kind of at a point where the year was ending and also the current business was ending, so I was looking for something new. Dana was coming off a long legal case that he'd been working on for some time as well. So we were both at a point where we were looking for something new to do. I knew he'd been working on some books, but I didn't really know much about him, and we were hanging out at the rec center with my kids, and he asked me to read it. And I never even remembered the title, and he said it's called Opt Out, and I was like, I like that name.
How do you help people out of the rat race that they're stuck in? I just looked at my own life and said, well, how did I get out of this? I mean, it's not the only way out, but it's my way out. And as I developed that content, I kind of came upon the theme of opting out. I mean, I realized I'd opted out of the usual ways of making money. I opted out of the usual ways of spending money. And I was living a cool life. And so I called the book Opt Out.
When I read his book, I was really surprised because I know his story, and he's someone who's, the most interesting man in the world in some regards, right? He's traveled the world, he's been a pastor, he's been an attorney, he's been a business owner, he's been an investor, he owns real estate. He had a ton of money and then he crashed, and he's done it all. He's raised a family, right? So he's someone that I've looked up to, and he's very godfather-ish, and it was cool to read his story and learn about a lot of the practical things that he does that I didn't even know he did.
Yeah, I hit a point where even though I was living pretty much the life that I designed, I was kind of stuck in a rut, and I decided I needed a break. And after giving it some thought, decided to take a year or more off. Sold everything that was in my house, got out of my lease, and put a few things in storage, sold the cars, and moved to Bali. We ended up leasing a villa for 14 months. It became a quiet place for me to finish a lot of contemplation and thinking that resulted in my book.
And I thought it was a really cool narrative with him going to Bali and that whole thing to kind of hook you and then to bring you into this, here's how I've made money, it's non-conventional, here's how I've lived in cool houses in an unconventional way, here's how I limit my expenses and find deals, and I just love the whole combination of it.
A book is cool, but I want to reach more people. And so I partnered with Nate Broughton, one of my business partners, and said, let's build a platform around this. Podcast, blog, and put more resources out there and actually make the opt-out life something that we really help people achieve.
And we could do a content-based business. I think it's a good time for us to invest in that. I think we're the right people to do it. People seem to like hanging out with us. We can contrast each other. They could hate me and love you, or love us both. I don't know if it would ever be the other way around, but we're a good balance.
I think what's cool about Nate and I is that we're at different phases of life, and we've had completely different journeys, but we found ourselves with the same mission in our personal lives. We found ourselves with the same idea that we ought to be able to live the life we want, doing what we want when we want.
All humans learn through stories, so we want to tell stories, and we want to tell powerful stories of people who are just like the listeners who have made all this stuff work. We tell their stories from the starting point of where they were, hopefully where a lot of listeners of Opt-Out Life are right now.
I think we're taking a unique approach to the podcast because we're bringing in people that have great stories, and we've asked them to kind of open the door a little bit and let some of their secrets out. And what we're trying to do is make it feel like you're sitting with us having a beer with someone who's done some really cool stuff. And we hope that comes across and gives people the real tools, but also a connection to somebody that they feel like they can identify with and learn from.
The Opt-Out Life is the no BS guide because we're bringing in people who are everyday people to us, or people who are our friends, who aren't living in some mansion on the hill and haven't started some company that's worth $200 million. It's people who have made this work in a small way, and that's good enough for them to be able to control their time and have the freedom that they want in their lives.
We're not famous. We didn't take a multi-$100 million exit from a tech company. We're just Nate and Dana. We happen to be living a pretty cool life, and we realize that most people want to and aspire to live that life, the life of freedom, not the life of private jets and Lamborghinis and mansions,
The opt-out life is not something that's unattainable for anyone. You don't have to be well-funded, rich, have a certain degree. I mean, it's totally against that stuff. It's saying that there are ways for any of us to take a small step towards this, and whether those are like small financial hacks or little things that you can do to leverage a skill that you have that you learned at your job that you hate. Like, you could be doing something with that skill right now to make side income that could create flexibility for you down the road.
The opt-out life is a way to get the life that you actually want, not the one that's being sold to you. So it's an approach to life that means re-examining what you think is valuable and what you think is the pathway to success, which a lot of people say is to get your degrees, get a good job, put money in your 401k, invest in the stock market.
I mean, Dana and I's goal with the opt-out life is to build a community of people who are learning from us, but also kind of contributing too. The greatest thing for us would be if someone signs up for opt-out life right now, gets inspired to do something. 2 years from now, they come on the podcast, and the student teaches the master.
What Nate and I believe would be a success for the opt-out life is not just to have a lot of people listening to the podcast or interacting with us on the blog, but we want the real stories of people that have applied these tools and made a real change in their life. We want to see people's lives transformed.